The world returned to Eliza Boone in slow fragments. First came warmth, a deep, enveloping heat that didn't belong to the dusty ground she remembered falling against. Next came the rhythmic sound of a crackling fire, snapping like distant gunshots in the night. Then a scent, pine smoke and leather, unfamiliar yet comforting. She stirred, eyelids heavy as stone, trying to remember where she was. Trying to remember who she was, the dust storm. Her runaway mare. The tumble and the pain. She groaned as awareness seeped back into her body, and then a soft, warm pressure met her lips. Her eyes flew open. A man's face hovered over hers, strong jaw. Sun-bronzed skin, a streak of war paint across one cheek. His hair, long and raven dark, brushed against her skin like silk. His dark eyes widened when he saw her awaken beneath him. His hand was spread gently over her ribs, steadying her breaths. Eliza's heart sprang wildly in her chest. She scrambled backward, the buffalo hide covering her, slipping down her shoulders. The man raised both hands in peace, his voice low and calm. "Easy," he murmured. "You breathe now." She stared at him, breath hitching. His accent marked him clearly as Apache, a warrior from the very people her father claimed were dangerous. Yet nothing in his gaze held danger. Only relief. Why were you?" She stammered, her fingers going to her lips, still tingling. He hesitated, searching for English. "You, very cold. Not waking. Kiss gives warmth, breath." His expression tightened with sincerity. "I could not wait for you to wake. Life tried to leave you." Her face burned hot, even as chills raced down her spine. He had saved her, kissed her to revive her, not to steal anything from her. But still, an Apache? Her father would have a stroke if he knew. I fell," she whispered. "Yes," he nodded. "Storm threw you from your horse. I pulled you out before sand buried you. You sleep long." Eliza held the buffalo hide tighter, suddenly shy beneath his intense attention. He rose, moving with the power and grace of a wild stallion, and stoked the fire. She watched his every motion, the scars on his shoulders, the handmade knife at his belt, the respect with which he handled even the smallest ember. He was no savage. He was careful, noble, alive with purpose. "You saved me," she said quietly. He nodded once. "My name is Dakota." His voice was deep, grounding. "It means friend to everyone." She swallowed, nervous but drawn in spite of herself. "Eliza," she replied. "Eliza Boone." The cave around them was small but warm. Outside, wind still howled through the desert cliffs. Dakota offered her a cup made of carved horn, filled with warm herbal tea. She hesitated, then accepted. The heat flowed through her fingers, then through her entire body. "You are far from your home," he observed. "Why?" The truth felt foolish now. "I was angry. My father promised me freedom, said he'd let me help with ranch work like the boys, but he changed his mind." She stared into the fire. "I rode off to prove I didn't need him to protect me." Dakota's lips lifted slightly, not quite a smile, more a knowing look. Storms do not care for pride. Her laugh was weak but real. "I see that now." His gaze softened. "Your father fears losing you." "Fear makes hard rules." She blinked, surprised by such understanding from someone she'd been taught to mistrust. "You speak wisely." He shrugged. "Pain teaches fast." Silence followed, comfortable yet heavy with questions neither dared voice. The crackling fire glowed on Dakota's features, turning him into something carved from ancient strength. Eliza's heart fluttered unexpectedly, not from fear but from wonder. She thought of the stories townsfolk told. Apaches were brutal, heartless warriors. But Dakota had risked himself to save her. had warmed her with fire, blankets, and even his own breath. Everything she once believed felt suddenly uncertain. Eliza shifted, her voice barely above a breath. "Thank you for saving my life." Dakota met her eyes fully then, and she felt seen in a way she never had before. "There was no choice," he said simply. "Your life is worth saving." Her pulse fluttered faster. Outside, the storm began to calm. But inside, another storm, new and electric, sparked to life. Eliza didn't understand it yet, but she felt it. This rescue was not the end of their story. It was the beginning. And her world was already changing. By morning, the wind had quieted into gentle whispers over the desert. Sunlight filtered into the cave, turning the rock walls gold. Eliza stretched carefully, surprised by how well she had slept despite everything. Dakota was already awake, kneeling near the cave entrance, scanning the horizon like a watchful guardian. He turned as she sat up, his expression softening. "You are stronger now," he said. She nodded, though her body still ached from the fall. "Thanks to you." He offered her a small piece of dried meat and a handful of berries gathered from the canyon. She ate gratefully, marveling at his resourcefulness. Her father had always said Apache lived off the land like wolves, but wolves didn't save strangers, didn't offer their food before eating themselves. Dakota noticed her thoughtful stare. "You have questions," he said. Eliza hesitated. "Why were you out there? Alone?" A shadow crossed his eyes. "My sister, Ayanna. She is 12. She was taken." His jaw clenched, voice low with restrained pain. "Soldiers say my people took settlers' cattle. They came in the night for revenge. They took her instead." His fists tightened. "I searched for her trail." Eliza's heart twisted. She knew conflict had grown ugly on the frontier, fear fueling cruelty on both sides. She also knew what it was to fight for family. Her 3 younger brothers had died of fever years ago. It was why her father clung so tightly to her. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Dakota nodded once, grateful for the empathy rather than pity. "I must take you home before I search again." Her chest tugged. She didn't want him to leave, didn't want to return to a life where adventure meant sneaking out at night and courage was talking back at dinner. Yet she knew she had to go home. After dousing the fire, they began the trek through the desert canyon. Dakota walked half a step ahead, every movement alert and precise. Eliza found herself studying him, the way the sun lit the copper undertones of his skin, the power in his shoulders, the quiet purpose guiding him. They paused at a narrow ridge overlooking the valley. Below, riders on horseback moved in strict formation, cavalry scouts. Dakota stiffened instantly. Eliza saw fear flicker in his eyes, not for himself, but for what might happen if they saw him with her. "They look for Apache," he murmured. "If they see me, they will shoot first." Eliza swallowed hard. She knew the soldiers. They wouldn't bother asking questions. Without thinking, she grabbed his arm. "Come with me. We'll take the long way. They won't see you." His gaze dropped to where her hand touched him. For a moment, everything else, the soldiers, the tension, the danger, disappeared. It was just the two of them, connected by something neither could name yet. But then a shout echoed from the valley. A soldier had spotted movement. "Eliza!" A voice bellowed. "Is that you? Are you hurt?" She recognized the voice, Lieutenant Warren. A family friend. A suspicious man. Dakota froze like a deer cornered by hounds. Eliza acted fast. She stepped forward, blocking Dakota from sight behind a rock. She forced a shaky smile and waved. "Yes, I'm all right. My horse threw me in the storm." She called back loud and confident. "I hid in the rocks until morning." The soldiers continued riding, satisfied with her explanation but still wary. Eliza held her breath until the last rider disappeared behind a rise. Only then did she turn back to Dakota. His eyes were wide, astonished. "You lead." "For me. You saved my life," she said. "I won't let them take yours." For the first time, Dakota smiled fully, a rare, breathtaking sight that sent warmth rushing through her veins. "You are brave," he said quietly. Eliza shook her head. "I'm just doing what's right." "No," he corrected gently. "Right and brave are the same only for true hearts." Her breath caught. They walked again, a silent understanding growing stronger with each step. Eventually, the Boone homestead appeared, fences and cattle scattered across the dry land, the ranch house standing stubborn against the emptiness of the plains. Dakota paused, hidden behind a mesquite tree. "I cannot go closer," he said. "Your people fear mine." Eliza's chest tightened with disappointment she didn't expect. "Will I see you again?" He studied her, really studied her, as though carving her into memory. "I must find Ayanna," he said. "But if the wind leads me back here—" "Yes." Eliza stepped closer, voice barely a whisper. "I hope it does." Dakota touched his fingers to his lips, the same lips that had breathed life back into her, then lightly to her forehead. A respectful gesture filled with meaning she didn't yet know. "Goodbye." "Eliza Boone," he murmured and with the silent grace of a hawk. He vanished into the desert. Eliza watched until he disappeared completely. Her world, which once seemed small as her father's rules, now stretched wide and wild as the horizon. She didn't know what her father or the town would say. She didn't care. Her heart had awakened. Her world had begun to change. Eliza Boone returned to the homestead under the hot, unforgiving sun, her heart still pounding from the morning's encounter. The taste of Dakota's presence lingered on her lips, and the memory of his gaze made her pulse quicken. She wanted to speak of him, to shout to the world that not all Apaches were enemies, but the world outside the small farmhouse. Windows would not understand. Her father, Jed Boone, was waiting on the porch. His hat was tipped low against the glare, his arms crossed like twin wooden beams. The moment he saw her, his face twisted in anger and relief. "Eliza, where in the blazes have you been?" He barked. Father, I fell off my horse during the storm." "That's all," she said, her voice calm but firm. Jed narrowed his eyes, scanning her as if seeing a stranger. "You were gone half a day." "Half a day? You could have been killed." Eliza forced herself not to flinch, remembering Dakota's words about courage and choice. "I know. But I was safe." Yet's glare softened for a fleeting moment, but then suspicion hardened it again. "Safe? By whose hand, girl? Who helped you?" Eliza hesitated, the memory of Dakota's protective presence flashing through her mind. How could she explain a warrior from the Apache tribe had saved her life, had kissed her awake, had been nothing but kind and honorable? Even saying the truth might provoke her father's fury or worse, the town's judgment. It was a stranger, she said finally, choosing caution over honesty. Jed scowled but said no more. Still, the unease in the town grew faster than wildfire on the prairie. Rumors spread by sundown that Eliza had been seen with an Apache, that she had gone willingly, that she had somehow invited danger into their town. Mothers pulled their children indoors. The blacksmith spat in the dirt. The minister whispered prayers over shaking hands. Eliza felt the weight of every eye upon her. Her cheeks burned, but more than shame, it was indignation. How could a man who saved her life be seen as the enemy? And how could her own people misunderstand the meaning of bravery, kindness, and respect? Her three younger sisters, Mary, Susanna, and Clara, huddled around her in the kitchen. "Did you see him?" Mary asked, voice trembling. "Yes," Eliza whispered. She couldn't hide the truth from them. They were too innocent to carry the burden of lies. Was he scary? Susanna asked. No, Eliza said firmly. He was noble, brave. He saved me. That's all that matters. Clara, the youngest, pressed her small hand into Eliza's arm. But the town will be mad. I know, Eliza said. She met her sister's anxious eyes. But bravery isn't about what the town thinks. It's about what's right. Her conviction was tested that very evening. Jed returned from the general store, muttering to himself about trouble on the horizon. There's talk, he said grimly. The town is whispering about you, Eliza. They say you've been seen with the Apache. They say what? She interrupted, standing taller than she had ever done. Yet's eyes narrowed. They say you consort with the enemy. Eliza's pulse raced, but instead of fear, a strange clarity came over her. She would not bow to prejudice, not this time. Not when she knew the truth. You're wrong, she said, voice steady. He is no enemy. He saved my life. He protected me when I was in danger. That should be what matters, not your fear or the town's whispers. Jed froze, caught between anger and astonishment. The kitchen grew still, the silence thick with tension. For the first time, Eliza felt the power of her own voice. She realized she could stand for what was right, even if everyone else misunderstood. That night, she could not sleep. Outside, the prairie was silent, the wind whispering secrets only she seemed to hear. She thought of Dakota, his warm hands, the way his gaze had seemed to understand her completely. Her heart ached with longing and fear, longing for the man who had shown her a new kind of courage, and fear of the world that might never understand them. By dawn, she had made her decision. She would not hide her heart or her truth. She would not let fear dictate her life. She would find a way to help Dakota, to show her town, her father, and herself that bravery and honor could cross the lines they had drawn in the sand. And so, the first spark of rebellion, quiet, resolute, and courageous, ignited in Eliza Boone's heart. Her world was still dangerous, filled with prejudice and suspicion. But one truth now guided her. Love and courage were stronger than fear. Her journey was only beginning, and she would not turn back. The next morning, Eliza Boone could not wait. Her heart refused to rest, her thoughts consumed by Dakota and the danger he faced. She had learned enough from him to know the Apache warrior's mission was urgent. His sister, Ayanna, had been taken by outlaws masquerading as soldiers. Every day she remained captive put her life at risk. Eliza's conscience would not allow her to stay idle. She slipped out of the house before dawn, careful to avoid her father's gaze. Her sisters were still asleep, the farmhouse silent except for the low moan of the wind over the plains. With a small pack of provisions and her father's old rifle slung over her shoulder, she set out toward the canyon where Dakota had disappeared the day before. The desert stretched endlessly before her, but determination gave her leg strength she didn't know she had. Hours later, she found him. Dakota stood atop a rocky outcrop, scanning the canyon below. His hand rested on the bow at his back, eyes sharp as a hawk's. When he saw her approach, a flicker of surprise crossed his face, quickly replaced by relief. "Eliza," he said, voice low. "You should not be here." "I couldn't stay at home," she said, catching her breath. "I have to help you. I know the land, the trails. Maybe I can help find Ayanna." He studied her carefully. The morning sun illuminated the lines of determination on her face. Finally, he nodded. "You are brave," he said. "You will be my shadow then. Follow carefully. The desert is no friend to the careless." Together, they moved through the canyon, silent except for the crunch of sand beneath their boots. Dakota led the way, pointing out tracks, broken branches. and other signs that would have gone unnoticed to the untrained eye. Eliza learned quickly, matching his pace, listening to the whisper of the wind, and feeling the pulse of the earth beneath her feet. As the day wore on, the dangers of the desert became apparent. Vultures circled overhead, warning of death nearby. A rattlesnake slithered across their path, and they had to jump aside quickly. Dakota moved with quiet confidence, but every so often, he glanced at Eliza to ensure she was safe. By mid-afternoon, they stumbled upon a small campsite hidden in a natural alcove. The fire was cold, but footprints led deeper into the canyon. Dakota motioned for silence. "Bandits," he whispered. "They have been here recently. Ayanna must be close." Eliza's heart pounded. Fear threatened to overwhelm her, but she clenched her fists. "We'll find her," she said firmly. They followed the trail, moving like shadows through the jagged rocks. Dakota occasionally taught her small lessons along the way: how to read the tracks of men and animals, how to listen for the subtle differences in footsteps, and how to use the land itself as a guide. Eliza absorbed it all, realizing how little she had understood about the world beyond her father's ranch. Hours passed, and the canyon grew narrower, walls rising like guardians on either side. Finally, they spotted movement ahead, a small, frightened girl tied to a post, guarded by two rough-looking men. Ayanna. Relief surged through Eliza, but there was no time for hesitation. Dakota motioned to her. "Stay behind the rocks," he said. Then, with the skill of a seasoned warrior, he approached the bandits, his voice low and commanding. "Let the child go." The men laughed, brandishing knives. But Dakota was faster, moving like a shadow. Within moments, he had disarmed them and freed Ayanna. Eliza rushed forward, cutting the bindings completely and gathering the trembling girl in her arms. "Thank you," Dakota whispered, his eyes meeting hers. For the first time, there was no mask, just gratitude and the recognition of shared courage. Eliza smiled, brushing a strand of hair from Ayanna's face. "We did it together." As they began their journey back through the canyon, Eliza felt something she had not expected. A bond deeper than admiration, deeper than friendship, growing between her and Dakota. It was forged in shared danger, respect, and the realization that their worlds, though divided by fear and prejudice, could meet on the common ground of honor and love. By the time they emerged from the canyon, the sun was low, painting the desert in fiery hues of orange and gold. Eliza glanced at Dakota, and he returned her look unflinching, steady. They had rescued Ayanna. They had survived. And in that moment, Eliza understood. The frontier was harsh. The world often cruel, but bravery, loyalty, and love could carve a place of safety and hope even in the most unforgiving land. Her heart was no longer hers alone. It belonged in part to Dakota, to the wild, untamed spirit he had awakened within her, and to the promise that together they could face whatever came next. The sun dipped low over the western horizon, casting long shadows across the rugged canyon. Dakota and Eliza had spent the day navigating the treacherous desert paths. Ayanna safely tucked between them, but the feeling of relief was short-lived. Danger, like the desert wind, was never far behind. They had just stopped to rest near a trickle of water when a sudden rustling shattered the quiet. Eliza's heart leapt. "Dakota," she whispered, but it was too late. Bandits, the same ones who had taken Ayanna, now appeared, riding hard, faces twisted with greed and vengeance. Their leader waved a knife, shouting, "Thought you could steal from us?" Dakota's eyes narrowed. "Run!" he commanded, pressing Ayanna close to his side. Eliza's hand shook as she lifted her father's old rifle. Her training in the canyon had been minimal, but she remembered every lesson Dakota had given her. She took careful aim, steadying her breath. A shot rang out, slicing the still air. One bandit fell, and the others hesitated. "Go!" Dakota shouted, grabbing her hand and pulling her into cover behind a jagged rock. His movements were fast, precise, but in the chaos a knife found his shoulder. He stumbled, gritting his teeth against the pain. Blood darkened his tunic. "No!" Eliza cried, terror surging through her. She scrambled toward him, rifle ready, firing with a mix of desperation and skill. Each shot found its mark, driving the bandits back. Dakota fell to one knee, struggling to rise. Eliza reached him, heart hammering. "I won't let them hurt you," she yelled, cutting Ayanna free from his grasp and pulling the girl to safety behind another rock. Dakota looked at her, voice strained. "Eliza, go with her." "I can." "No." "I'm staying," she interrupted fiercely. "You saved me once. Now it's my turn." A silent understanding passed between them. Together they would face whatever came next. The bandits charged again, but this time Eliza acted with confidence she had never known. She ducked, fired, and moved, following Dakota's lead. He staggered but fought with relentless strength, each motion a testament to the warrior he was. Finally, after what felt like hours but was only minutes, the bandits faltered. Their leader cursed, realizing their advantage was gone. One by one, they retreated into the canyon, disappearing into the shadows from which they had come. Dakota sank to the ground, grimacing as Eliza knelt beside him. She tore a strip from her scarf to bind his wound, pressing gently against his shoulder. His hand covered hers. "You are fearless," he said quietly, pain and awe mixing in his voice. Eliza's chest swelled, a mix of relief and something far more dangerous, desire. "Only when I need to be," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. He studied her for a long moment, his dark eyes softening. "You saved my life," he murmured. "Again." She smiled, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. "We saved each other." Together, they helped Ayanna to her feet. The little girl clung to Eliza, eyes wide with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. Dakota nodded, swallowing the last of his pain. "We must return home," he said, "before more come." The walk back was slower, Dakota leaning on Eliza at times, but their spirits soared. The sun set in brilliant colors, painting the desert with golds and crimsons. Eliza couldn't help but feel that this journey, though perilous, had drawn them closer than anything else could dot as the Boone homestead appeared in the distance. Eliza's heart pounded with anticipation and fear. She worried about her father, about the townsfolk, but most of all, she worried about Tako. Jed Boone met them at the gate, eyes wide with shock as he saw the Apache warrior, bloodied but alive, and his daughter standing firm by his side. The townspeople had begun to gather, murmuring nervously, but Dakota held Ayanna safely and looked at Eliza with quiet strength. Jed swallowed hard, realizing the truth he had long resisted. He saved you," he said finally. "Yes, father," Eliza replied, her voice calm but resolute. "And he saved Ayanna too. He is no enemy." The tension in the air began to lift as word spread of the bandits' defeat. Neighbors came forward, amazed that the feared Apache had protected the Boone family and rescued the girl from certain danger. Respect replaced suspicion, grudgingly at first, but with the promise of understanding. Eliza watched Dakota carefully, noticing the way he smiled at Ayanna and the gentle respect in his eyes when he looked at her. The memory of the first kiss, the warmth, the fear, the thrill rose in her chest. She knew then that nothing would ever make her fear love again. As the sun finally sank behind the hills, painting the sky with streaks of fire, Dakota turned to her. "You are brave, Eliza Boone, and I'm grateful." Eliza smiled, brushing dust from her clothes. "We're in this together, Dakota." whatever comes next. The frontier was still wild, dangerous, and unforgiving. But for the first time, Eliza knew they could face it, together. And in that knowledge, she felt something stronger than fear, stronger than the desert winds, stronger even than the dangers yet to come. Hope. The morning sun rose over the Boone homestead like a promise, painting the desert in warm, forgiving light. After the harrowing events of the past days, a quiet sense of hope settled over the town. Word had spread of the bandits' capture, of Ayana's rescue, and most importantly, of the Apache warrior who had risked everything to save Eliza and her family. Dakota stood on the edge of the homestead, his tall frame silhouetted against the rising sun. His shoulder was still bandaged from the knife wound, but his posture was strong, unbowed. Beside him, Ayana clung to his hand, eyes wide with gratitude and admiration. Eliza approached, heart pounding, feeling the same mixture of nervousness and excitement that had coursed through her the first time she awoke in the canyon to his kiss. She had grown so much over these few days, braver, wiser, and more certain of her own strength. Yet her heart still raced at the sight of him. Her father, Jed Boone, emerged from the farmhouse, his expression more open than it had been in years. He cleared his throat, then spoke carefully. "Dakota, I owe you my daughter's life, and my respect. I was wrong to doubt you. You are welcome here." Dakota inclined his head respectfully. "Thank you, Jed Boone. Your courage in seeing the truth honors both of us." The townspeople, initially skeptical and wary, had begun to gather as well. Neighbors, merchants, and farmers, all who had whispered suspicion, now approached cautiously, some bowing their heads, others offering nods of approval. It was clear that Dakota's actions had changed more than Eliza's heart. They had begun to change the hearts of the entire settlement. Eliza stepped forward, taking Dakota's hand in hers. "You risked everything for me," she said softly. "And for Ayana. I don't care what anyone else thinks. I only care about what's right, and about us." Dakota's dark eyes softened, the weight of days filled with danger and distrust melting in her gaze. "Eliza Boone," he said, his voice low and steady, "you are stronger than any frontier, braver than any battle. You have saved more than Ayana and your family. You have saved my hope." A breeze swept across the prairie, carrying the scent of sagebrush and the distant scent of spring rain. It was as if the land itself had breathed a sigh of relief. Eliza felt a tremor in her chest, a mixture of joy, relief, and anticipation. "Then, let's save the future together," she whispered. Dakota leaned closer, his hand brushing hers gently. "I would follow you to the ends of the earth," he murmured. Then, with a tenderness that belied his warrior strength, he pressed his lips to hers. This time, Eliza kissed him back fully awake, her heart opening to the love she had been denying herself. Around them, the homestead stirred with life. Ayana laughed and ran toward the Boone sisters, joining them in a joyous reunion. The town watched, some curious, some approving, as Eliza and Dakota stood together, no longer two worlds apart, but one united by courage, love, and respect. Jed Boone stepped forward, smiling, his hand resting briefly on Eliza's shoulder. "You've taught me a lesson," he said quietly. "Courage doesn't wear one face, nor come from one tribe. And love doesn't know borders." Eliza squeezed her father's hand, gratitude swelling in her chest. "Thank you, Father, for seeing clearly." Dakota extended his hand to the town, and slowly, one by one, people came forward, offering nods, handshakes, even words of thanks. The fear and prejudice that had once dominated the frontier now felt smaller, diminished by bravery and the truth of their shared humanity. As the sun climbed higher, painting the desert in gold, Eliza and Dakota walked together toward the barn where Ayanna played safely with her sisters. Each step felt lighter, freer. The weight of fear and suspicion lifted. Their hands remained intertwined, a silent promise that whatever hardships lay ahead, they would face them together that evening. As the sky ignited with streaks of amber and crimson, Eliza and Dakota stood atop a small hill, looking out over the land that had tested them so fiercely. "Do you think the land can heal?" Eliza asked, leaning slightly against him. Dakota's eyes softened as he gazed across the plains. "Yes," he said. "As long as hearts like ours work together, love and courage will always find a way." Eliza rested her head on his shoulder. The wind whispered through the canyon, carrying the scent of sage and promise. Her world had changed forever, and for the first time, she felt truly home. Dakota bent down and kissed her again, a kiss that sealed their courage, their love, and the new life they would build together. Behind them, the desert stretched endlessly, wild and beautiful, a testament to their resilience. In the heart of the